All right, thank you all for coming to our Students of Concern What to Do When. My name is Mark, I'm the Director of Counseling Services.
I'm Drew Peterson. I'm the Behavioral Intervention Team Coordinator.
And we budgeted about 2 hours of time for this training. If we don't go that long, I'm sure you won't be that disappointed. But we also want to leave ourselves with plenty of time to answer questions and really talk through some of this stuff. So if you do have a question at any time, please feel free to stop us, including our online participants. I will try to stay mostly in this vicinity so I can see things coming through. But so we're going to start off with just talking about the Counseling Center utilization. This is kind of a benchmark to see how maybe the greater ASU campus community is doing. So as you can see, over the last 2 years, we have reached incredible growth for counseling services. We went up about 28% from 2020 to 2021, and then another 19% from 21 to 22. So what that tells us is that there's lots of students out there, not just students, I would say faculty and staff as well, who are struggling with mental health challenges. We've all been through a very interesting last couple of years, and I think that is a big part of what's going on. Let's break it down a little bit further and talk about the top 10 reasons people visit counseling services. And these are probably not a big surprise to most people, but anxiety and stress and depression, they have been like a top 3 reason why college students seek help for the last at least decade. But the other ones might not be as common. So sleep, relationships, family, time management, trauma, these all play a role in why people seek help. All right, so how are we doing compared to the rest of the country? So we do an assessment for every student that comes in, and we actually have higher severity in all these categories. On the left, depression, anxiety, social anxiety, etc. You can see the slide here. I would say it is significantly pretty insignificant. So it's not like our students are just so much more stressed out and depressed and anxious than the other ones, but it is a little bit higher, and it's a little bit troubling. The one really interesting thing to me on this slide is that over the last 4 years since I've been here, our suicidal ideation has actually always been higher than the national average, sometimes up to about 7%. At our peak, 46% of the students that came to counseling said, I do have some suicidal ideation. And now we're a little bit lower than the national average, but it's by about 0.5%. All right, so again, the reason why I'm kind of sharing this background information, this is only students who come to the counseling center. We can't say this is representative of all ASU students, but I think it does give us a good insight into what a lot of students are feeling and experiencing. So one of the biggest takeaways we want you to have from this training is to be able to recognize a student, person, friend, could be family member of concern. The biggest clue or tip off for you all is what is going on is abnormal from what you're used to seeing out of a student. So if someone is super outgoing and energetic and cheerful, and now they are reserved, they're isolating, you don't see them anymore, that may be a clue and a warning sign. The biggest thing to consider too is the number of clues that you see means that there's a higher risk for someone going through some trouble stuff. And so ultimately, like at the end of today, I don't expect someone to leave here and become a counselor. Like that'd be pretty crazy, right? And that would be pretty high expectations that are unrealistic. But what I want you to do is be able to recognize that there are people struggling and what that might look like. And then B, how can I have a conversation? Again, that probably sounds scary to many people, and that is completely understandable. Because sometimes we're talking about a life or death situation in front of you. And so we want you to know that you do have a lot of support from counseling services and student affairs and the BIT cares team. So we're going to go through these. Now, I did add this part. Drew and I have done this slideshow quite a number of times. Recently, I did add this possible indicator up. And I kind of hesitated doing that because I don't want to pathologize every symptom. Not every symptom that someone's going through means you are diagnosable with depression or anxiety. That would be, I don't want to really live in that kind of society. Sometimes there's adjustments. Sometimes people adjust to college and they have some hurdles to go over. Sometimes people do lose a relative and we have to go through the grief process. It doesn't mean that they're diagnosable. But I also want you to see that there may be connectors. and that some of these things are not just face value as well. Some of them may have deeper issues. So academic signs, I think a lot of these are very straightforward. If you're hearing or seeing this from your students or people that you know, poor attendance, dropping grades, difficulty with concentration, repeated requests for special consideration, this may be a conversation that you want to have with the students. It may be you want to file a bit report, which Drew's going to talk much more in depth about later. And again, some of the reasons why people might have some of these signs are depression or anxiety, maybe performance anxiety, maybe personality disorders, maybe psychosis, which if anyone's unfamiliar with psychosis is, it's basically seeing or hearing things that are not necessarily real. So hallucinations or delusions. Again, that's on the extreme end, but this inappropriate and disjointed responses, that typically has to do with like disorders such as schizophrenia and things like that. The hard part is the onset of such a disorder usually happens around this time, 18 to 25 years old. All right, academic science, pretty straightforward. Are we pretty cool on that? Okay, let's go through what is this going to look like on the day to day? What is someone going to exhibit who's going through some of these things? So maybe they have some changes in their hygiene. Maybe they take care of themselves way too much to cover something up, or maybe they don't take care of themselves as much. Maybe they're not practicing good self-care. One of the biggest signs of depression or even possibly an eating disorder is rapid weight gain or rapid weight loss. Also changes in sleep. Sometimes people sleep way too much, maybe to avoid the world and that stress that they're feeling. And sometimes people can't get a good night's sleep. I don't know about you, if you've ever had some sleep deprivation, even if it was just for like one night because you're staying up doing fun things. When you're in that state of deficit, you tend not to make the best choices. One of the factors for suicidal plans and actions is lack of sleep. I'm running on empty. I have nothing left. That's pretty drastic, but it certainly can be a factor. Self-harm, marking the body. So again, if you see someone, sometimes people wear these as a badge of honor, and they wear them on their arms or their legs. And people sometimes want it to be seen. I will make one differentiation about self-harm. A lot of times people, if they see someone who has cut themselves recently or done any kind of self-harm, the most interesting, this probably sounds terrible to say it like that, but I had a client who would stick their finger in a vice grip and squeeze it. And that was their form of self-harm. And so a lot of times people worry that this is an act of suicide or I want to kill myself. And most of the time it's really not. It's most of the time it's I want to take control of something, of my inner turmoil and emotional state by doing something physical to myself. And a lot of times people get a pretty strong release by doing that. But again, that can be a sign of depression or a personality disorder, such as like borderline personality or others. Intense, dramatic, volatile emotions. So if in a classroom, a student gets called on in class and they have an intense outburst that just doesn't match the situation, that could be a sign of a lot of things going on in their life. Again, what we want you to do is sort of have a conversation with that person, or at least file a students of concern report, so that we can see, is there anything else going on the surface? Does anyone know what anhedonia means? I know there's some psychologists here that better know it. Right. Don't care. Any other descriptors?
Inability for pleasure.
Right. Losing pleasure or interest in things that were enjoyable as well. So if someone loves playing volleyball and you invite them to go play out every night and they never go, that could be a sign of depression, maybe persistent depressive disorder, some anxiety, like I don't want to be around other people. And so something to consider. Obviously, if someone is writing or verbalizing, I want to die. I'm ready to kill myself. I'm not sure if I want to be here anymore. Like, if someone gives you kind of a vague statement like that, like I would love for you to go a little bit further and say, what do you mean by that? Do you not want to be at this meeting right now? There is a door right here. Just kidding. Please don't leave. Or does it mean I don't want to be alive anymore? I want to kill myself. I want to end it. So if that's the situation, we're going to show you a little flow chart that you can use at the end that will guide your decision making if you were ever in that situation, because it can be scary. All right, again, kind of we talked about this earlier, disorganized speech or behavior. If you are in the presence of someone who is experiencing some hallucinations or delusions, you're probably going to know it pretty easily. There's probably going to be things that are a little bit not understandable or incoherent. And so a lot of times people feel pretty unsafe in those kind of situations because it can be such an odd and strange situation. I would say this is just anecdotal, and I'm not telling you to like, well, usually people are not violent in those situations. They are just going through a lot of things at that moment. So it's okay to have conversations with people in those situations. They just might not be present in reality and oriented to make all make sense. Any questions about behavioral science? Again, these are not comprehensive lists. I would say a lot of times you're going to trust your intuition. Like if I see something or sense something that's going on and it's just out of the ordinary, I want to file a student's concern report so that Drew can help me shoulder the burden of it, so that counseling center can help see them. Because I think a lot of times we feel that pressure, like, okay, this person's in my world. I now know about it. What am I supposed to do? Kind of a scary situation. All right, long list of things. Interpersonal signs. So how's this going to come out between people? All right, so difficulty getting along with others. This could be angry episodes. This could be hostility. It could be odd, strange comments. It could be being very impulsive or manipulative as far as like personality, depression, anxiety. The biggest one to me is usually isolation. Think about yourself in your own life. Whenever you feel like crud, we'll say, do you typically want to be around people? Most people don't. We kind of isolate back to our own little shell because we don't want others to feel bad, or we don't want to burden other people, or we just don't want to be around them. And that's understandable. We do trauma I have not addressed trauma at all, but about 40% of the clients that walk through our doors have experienced a traumatic episode. It could be a one-time thing, and it could be a lifetime pervasive thing. And that can come out in a lot of different ways, but typically it comes out interpersonally. It's really hard to connect and have good relationships with people when you've experienced a lot of mistrust, violation in life. And so that is something, even as the helper, the one that wants to step in and say, hey, how can I help you? Sometimes we have to be very careful with our words and our language. Yes.
What's SI?
Suicidal ideation. Yeah, good question. Avoidance of class and organizations, extreme defensiveness. I think we all probably have that in certain ways. So it may be a sign, it may not be it. Heightened emotional reactions. Again, so does this response match what's going on right now? I just asked you a question. You belong up at. What's up with that? And then, yeah, profound sense of peace. So that usually people find that to be strange, and that's usually on there because people that do make a plan or have kind of come to the conclusion, I'm going to end my life soon. I do feel peaceful. Yes.
Sorry, is ASD like autism spectrum disorder?
Yes, it is. Definitely. Any other questions about interpersonal? Okay. So do you all feel like you could identify some of these things? Possibly. What's that? I hope so. I think you can. All right, so we're going to take a break from this guy talking, which would probably be a good thing. I'm going to turn this off, this microphone, so you all can hear it on your end. I hope this Okay. Power of a video, right? I mean, obviously it's a great video, but why did I show that video in a students of concern presentation? Any ideas? Any thoughts about the video? Other than it was good, right? So what, anything stick out to you all?
I think the instant regret is what stuck out to me the most, is that the fact that the second that his hands were.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the big takeaway I have too. Any other thoughts about it?
Was when he said, nobody cares about me, he realized that everybody cares.
Hmm.
Which is similar to student concern, they might think that nobody cares. Really, people care, they're just. It's in their head that nobody cares.
Are you both gonna be counselors soon? Genius. Look at these geniuses' response. So excellent.
Another thing is just the whole point of well, I would say that the recognizing the sign. It's just the fact that like that lady wants to take his picture and like didn't even have.
Yeah. There's a lot underneath the surface sometimes with people, for sure. And so, yes, I wanted to, well, it sounds bad. The easy part though is recognizing the warning signs. The challenging part is what do I do next? How do I have that conversation? Which is where we're segueing into. And so I do want you to know that most people want to have that conversation. A lot of times we don't have that conversation. Again, that was suicide related. Some of the stuff in the people in your world will not be suicidal, but they still will have mental health challenges. And so they want you to talk to them. They don't want to have that instant regret. So I guess I wanted to kind of give you all some encouragement. Like people aren't going to be angry at you for asking them, how are you doing? What's going on in your world? Are you okay? How can I help you? They may get a little frustrated or annoyed, but at the end of the day, part of this does have to do with you. Like, the way I always measure it, even in my world in the counseling center, is when I go home at night and lay my head on my pillow, am I going to think and worry about that student? Like, did I do enough? And again, I could have done everything I could have possibly do, and they still could kill themselves. But I need to know that I can sleep that night because I did what I could do. So I'm not trying to put a big old guilt trip on you all. Again, I just said already you're not counselors, but we need to take it seriously when we do hear and see some of these warning signs because like this young lady said, there could be, on my suicide prevention training, if anyone's gone to it, I usually do a slide of the Titanic, the iceberg. You see this beautiful iceberg in the water and it looks kind of small, but underneath it, there's this massive amount of stress, anxiety, rejection, trauma. And so we're trying to help a person get down there. All right, so I am going to show another video before we go through some of these pretty interesting points about how to have this conversation. So can I get did you all on the webinar hear that video clearly? Can I get a confirmation? I'm going to go ahead and assume that's a yes. Oh, I can't see chat.
They don't more people with the
Boom. No audio for the video and webinar. I'm so sorry. My apologies. That hurts my heart. I'm going to play another one. I'm sorry. I will put the captioning on. I do apologize. I forgot the captioning last time. All right, so let's talk about some ideas you can have. So if you have a person in your life that you're concerned about, please discuss it with a supervisor if you have a supervisor. It's always a great rule of thumb to consult with people. The more people that know about it, the better of a plan we can make, right? I think, again, something that we have to weigh in this situation, depending on where you work, and like if you're a staff member, a faculty member, a friend, a peer, like, do I worry that the student's gonna be angry at me for involving someone else? And again, to me, I'd rather have someone hate me and never talk to me again and know that they're okay and alive than me not do anything and something awful happens. So consult with the supervisor. You can also consult with BIT or counseling. I would say this as a kind of a disclaimer. So if you're seeing something, maybe a student in class has some writings on their notebook that says, "I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be here." Maybe like it's kind of a disturbing picture. If you want to talk to Drew about it, it'd probably be better just because he has less confidentiality constraints than I do. So maybe you're telling me something about a client and I know they're a client of ours. I can't even acknowledge that they are a client. I can't kind of close that loop and say, hey, I have them in counseling. You don't have to worry about it. I wish I could tell you that, but I can't even do it. So if you talk to Drew, he can kind of give you some front end information, give you some back end information. I'm not saying don't talk to us. We can certainly help you with general requests and give you like kind of rules of thumb, like what you could do, but it might be better to talk to him. Okay, so I always tell this story. I was at Ram Roundup. Anyone know what Ram Roundup is? Like this awesome event for freshmen before they become freshmen, and they get to go off to a camp. And so I was a staff member there, and a nice, what do they call them? An RSO, or not an RSO, an orientation lead. That's not right either. Anyway, one of the awesome students who was volunteering there, she brought up another student and said, hey, I wanted you to meet Mark. He's a counselor at the counseling center in case you have any struggles, because I know that you've been going through a lot of stress, which is nice, like, right? Her heart was in the right place. I want to introduce you to someone who can help. However, I was at a dinner table with about 10 other faculty and staff members, sort of outing this person in front of everyone. So that was a great idea, maybe not the best time. So again, think about your world, your space on campus or wherever. Most people are not going to be open, honest, and vulnerable when there's a bunch of people around. Okay, so try to address the situation in private. If you can't do that, I mean, try to find a private space, or again, take them to the counseling center. That one of the best answers that we can always give for any question is you can always take them to the counseling center, right? That's what we're there for. So take your time. All right, so let's talk about this. I was just checking my phone because I have some gutter guy coming to my house, but that thing's always there in most people's lives, right? See, right there. Whenever that little thing pops up, the text message or that notification from social media, I mean, your dopamine levels go off the charts. So I'm just going to encourage you, like this guy in the video said, take your time, have some energy, make this moment the most important moment in the world. Again, the other person's going to sense when you're present, care, when you're active. And so if you're checking your phone or looking away, not making good eye contact, do you feel like they're going to open up to you? Probably less likely, right? Yeah. All right, so share your concern. So you can communicate care many ways. Some of it can be verbally, some of it can be non-verbally, some of it can be how, I mean, this is really cheesy. I'm going to give you a secret into the world of counseling that people would probably be angry at if I told you. But one of the things that you can do in counseling to let people know that you're listening and tracking with them is do this. Just nod, right? Yes, I get it. Yes, I get it. It sounds so cheesy, but it does. It says, hey, I'm with you. I got it. I understand. But again, I mean, things like this, does this make people do you want to open up to me if I'm going to stand like this? Probably not. So watch your body language, be mindful of it. Let them know you care. This is another situation. Some people are very touchy-feely, and some people would like, I just want to give you a hug right now. And again, if you ever were wanting to do that, please ask for permission and only do it inappropriately. I'm not encouraging that behavior, but I'm saying sometimes people do need a hug, and that's okay. but just ask for permission. So identifying specific observations. Hey, John, I've noticed that you've been withdrawing from school lately, and usually you're one of my best students. I was just wondering what's going on. Or hey, I noticed yesterday when you were wearing that short sleeve shirt that there are some cuts on your arms, and I was really concerned about you. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And again, some people, like me, I'm a very big privacy person, and I might be like, who the heck are you? And some people might be, thank you for asking. I actually wore that short sleeve shirt because it was kind of a cry for help, and I wanted someone to reach out to me because I don't believe that anyone else cares, like the video you brought up before. So identifying specific observation, it usually kind of reduces the defensiveness. Again, shows that you care by noticing. All right, so anyone hear this old expression that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So one of the best ways that we can do that is through validation. And so what that might sound like would be, all right, I'm the person that's struggling. So yeah, my girlfriend just broke up with me. I just got kicked out of my parents' house because they found some weed. Not that I would ever do this, but and then I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. Like I'm lost. So you, being a caring person, might be like, hey, let's fix that. Let's get you set up with my roommate Johnny. You can live with him, and that might be great, and that might be really helpful in a moment. But sometimes that quick fix. Think about conversations with a significant other or just a friend. Sometimes when you like share some of your stress, and they immediately are like, all right, let's fix that. Does that usually leave you with a good feeling or kind of like a dismissive feeling? I mean, it really depends on the person, but most of the time people feel a little bit like rushed or dismissed or like, hey, you don't really get all that I'm going through. So just a really quick and simple thing you could say is, hey, Johnny, I'm really sorry. That is a lot that you're going through. I can see why you're so overwhelmed. So what you're really doing is you're reflecting back some of the things they said, but also some of that feeling that might be connected with it. And that way, Johnny knows, hey, you do care. You do sense how big of a deal this is. Whereas when I told my mother, she was just like, get over it, toughen up. So again, you just want to make yourself available and let them know, hey, I know that's tough. It's not easy to go through that. All right, so this is a huge one too, is know yourself. We're all different. We'll all have different levels of comfort talking to someone who's struggling. So are you more of a direct person? Like, I'm just going to go ahead and ask you some questions and be like, hey, I need to know the answer to this. Or are you more like indirect and I need to beat around the bush a little bit, get to know you, build a relationship better. So the direct person might say, hey, well, I see that you're struggling. Tell me what's going on. And then maybe if someone's aloof, they're like, hey, I'm not going to take that for an answer. Tell me, I really want to know. I really care. And then the indirect person's like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Okay, well, tell me more. Tell me more. That does seem really challenging. I really want to know more. And then, I mean, ultimately, you get to the place where you're kind of figuring out, okay, is this like we need to go to the counseling center? Is this like, hey, let's now that we have a good relationship built, let's talk about some solutions. I can take you over to the students with a goal and get you some academic coaching. Maybe we need to go talk to a professor and see what they can work out with you. All right, so the guy did a great job of showing you the part about limitations. Most likely you're not a counselor. Most likely you don't know every resource available at your disposal. So if it gets above your pay grade, if a student is literally saying, hey, I'm seriously thinking about walking out the door and killing myself, like let's call the police, let's get an intervention going here because we don't want them to kill themselves. So it's okay to say, hey, I really don't know how to help you, but let me take you somewhere that does. Okay. We'll talk about this in a second, but the best referral to wherever is going to be walking someone over there because that way we know that they got there. And sometimes you can actually give feedback that the person might not. We get that situation a lot in the counseling center, or maybe a professor will bring someone over and the student will tell us one thing, believe it or not, and the professor will say, well, actually in class they were saying this. And so sometimes it's helpful to get a secondary info. All right, offer resources, and we'll talk at the end about resources that you have. And then always follow students of concern report. Like I said, I don't want you to feel like that burden is yours to carry. Drew, I mean, that's one of his main jobs here is to check those students' concern reports, follow up with that student, put resources under them, and then make referrals. Any questions about this? It's doable? Okay, let's talk about a couple more, or things not to do. Okay, so this is almost just the inverse of the previous slide, but I do believe that there's a time and place to fix and problem solve with people. But again, I would usually typically do it after they know I got their back and I care about them and their situation. Something that I would never want someone to say, and I think the heart behind this statement is really good. I know exactly what you're going through because I really want to connect with you and I want you to know that this is normal and your reaction to it is typically normal. But what we're doing is we're usually taking it away from them. I mean, we don't know exactly what they're going through because even if we went through that same exact situation, the odds that we perceive it and interpret it the same are going to be pretty low. So think about if someone is talking to you and I say, hey, I know exactly what that's like. Or, yeah, back in my day, I used to walk, in the snow to school for 6 hours, whatever. You have nothing that I haven't gone through. That usually is kind of defeatist. Do you think you're going to be more likely to trust me if I say something like that? Are you going to be more likely to close down? Probably not. Probably not, trust me. All right, so this is West Texas. We are tough. We are strong. We do oftentimes have family systems that maybe they don't even say these exact words, but they say you're better than that. Or we got to toughen up, or I honestly, I send this message to my children sometimes, and it's really sad because I catch myself doing it because I don't want them to be so whiny sometimes, right? That's a normal thing. But again, think about if you are stressed out, you're struggling, and someone says, hey, why don't you just toughen it up? Let's get through this. You can do it. What's wrong with you? Um, that feels pretty defeating, right? So I think there's a time and place you could say this if you have a great relationship with someone. But typically, again, I would do it after I validate them, after I let them know that that we got this. All right, don't be distracted. Don't take the situation too lightly. I've said this in other ways. Again, think about this sleeping at night. Will I lose sleep if I didn't do enough? And then please follow up with the student. If you are in a position to work with a student, so again, I think of professors a lot. Like professors probably have heard every excuse in the world, right? And that is probably understandable. And maybe you can even become jaded hearing these excuses all the time. But from my perspective, and some of the counselors in the room, they may be able to say, like, usually most students are pretty good-hearted and they're not trying to pull one over on people or manipulate the situation. Sometimes, sure. But if you can make accommodations that are reasonable and not overly unfair to everyone else in the world in their class, I mean, please do it if it's okay. And then of course, file a students of concern report. Any questions about it, or don't file? I'm using a double negative. Don't fail to file a students of concern report. Any questions about these? Pretty straightforward. Okay, we're gonna do something fun, but not yet. All right, so here is a flow chart, just to give you some ideas about what to do. Now, it does say identified suicidal student, so that is obviously the most heightened situation, but this could be someone who is depressed or anxious standing in front of you. So what we want to find out in this situation is the student in imminent danger, which means the likelihood that they're going to do something to themselves is very strong. So if they say, yes, I'm about to go kill myself, I mean, we do need to have that intervention. We're going to call campus police. And again, it's not a punitive measure. It's not like we're trying to take them away to jail. We're not. We're probably taking them to the emergency room or a mental health facility so that they can have a safe place to not kill themselves. So if it's on campus, call police. If it's off campus, 911, file that incident report. Even if they go to the hospital or the emergency room, students of affairs can actually send an email to the professors so that they cannot get in trouble and be penalized for missing a few days of class while they get some treatment. Now, if you're uncertain about is this person in imminent harm or how severe is their situation, you can always go to this little Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, and I can provide this stuff if anyone wants to email counseling services at Angela. I can give you the slideshow. I can give you this screening tool. You actually don't even need to have training to use it. Some of the questions are pretty straightforward, but basically, have you wished you were dead? Have you actually had any thoughts of killing yourself? Have you been thinking about how you might do this? So you can kind of see those. If they answer yes to any of these, I mean, they are at heightened risk for suicide, of course, and we would have to respond appropriately. So if they are not, if they are deemed suicidal, let's go back up to calling the police. And again, I think that feels to me like an extreme measure right then and there. But again, I'm assuming you're not a counselor, so it might be hard to de-escalate the situation. If they're not suicidal, or you're still not sure after going through that thing, what you can do is you can walk them right over to counseling services. If it's business hours, if it's not, Drew has a bunch of cards up here for the ASU Crisis Helpline. Anyone not know what the ASU Crisis Helpline is? Can't see you all. So well, he'll talk about it later. I'm not gonna steal his thunder since I'm talking the whole darn time, right? Any questions about this little simple model? Can we do it? We all know where the counseling services building is, 1901 Johnson Street, right between that beautiful museum and that beautiful chapel is our old crusty building. Just kidding. It's a building. We love it. It works for us. All right. Kind of, we touched on this a bit. When do I call the police? If you feel threatened, if you're ever in a situation where a student is menacing, threatening, harassing, please call the police. Again, I don't need to hear and empathize with a situation like that. Call the campus police. It's okay. They are excellent at responding quickly. There's no need to put yourself in danger. Even if you get like an odd vibe from someone, I think it's okay. I'd rather have you protected, trying to help, than someone do something awful. All right, so we have a trained actor in our midst. Just kidding. I won't set up that expectation. We're going to do a little role play for you all. You don't have to do it yourselves, even though we usually do it. So you can judge. I'll be the helper or the teacher, professor, whatever. And Drew's going to be the student. All right, so here, I get nervous, especially with some of my staff right here. Hey, Drew. So I noticed that you've been skipping class lately, and the syllabus clearly states that if you miss 3 days, you're gonna fail. So what the heck's going on?
Yeah, that's actually why I was coming to talk to you about that. I've just been struggling lately. A lot of I used to struggle with anxiety, depression when I was younger, and it's just coming back right now, and it's been causing me to I'm doing pretty bad in all my classes, and I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I want to bring it up. I don't really know what to do right now.
Yeah. I mean, I wish you'd have told me a lot sooner. I mean, we're already like half of the semester. There's really not a lot that you're gonna be able to do. And I mean, I can kind of remember you back when I was in school. Like I totally had some of that stuff going on, but I just learned to push through it. So what's wrong with you? Wait, hang on. Okay, we're good. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know. Like it took everything for me just to get up here to talk to you today, so I don't know. I just feel like I need help or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I can help you in a little bit, and I mean, it is a little bit honorable that you came and talked, but there's only so much I can do. If I do this for you, I'm gonna have to do this for everybody. So can you just get that stuff in by midnight tonight?
I mean, yeah, I guess I'll try. I don't. Yeah,
Sweet. Let's meet tomorrow and talk about it.
if I'm here.
All right, y'all are looking at me like I'm a horrible person. I am, right? Okay, so that was obviously not how I would really go through the situation, right? There's like this cold chill in this room. Like, this is not how the counseling center rolls, by the way. So, okay, so what did you see that was awful? Besides everything, what were some of the specifics that you?
Check your phone.
I did, but I told you I had the gutter guy coming, so that's really important, right?
Said, so what's wrong with you?
I was blaming him.
Well, she told me sooner.
Oh,
He said, what the heck is going on?
I did. Should have used a stronger word, right? Anything else?
Didn't respond.
Well, you have more stressful.
Yeah, you get more stressful.
I know. I pretty much didn't hear a word he said. I just didn't take it. I mean, I did a little bit, but I didn't take it into consideration. How, right? That was my way of saying, I know exactly what you're going through. And I did it. Okay. So what kind of grade are we giving? An F? An F minus?
What's lower than that?
How, if you were to walk away from that conversation, how would you have felt?
Me?
Yeah.
Unheard. Like you didn't care.
Good. Okay, let's try again. All right? Hopefully I can do a little bit better. All right, Drew. So I wanted to see you after class today. I noticed that you've been, not coming to class much lately. And I was just concerned about you. Can you kind of tell me what's been going on?
Yeah, I'd been meaning to come talk to you, so I'm glad we're talking. But I've just been struggling lately with getting motivated, just doing anything really. Sleeping, to tell you the truth. I'm not doing good in any of my classes right now, and I can't keep anything together, my thoughts and stuff. I'm just real sad, basically.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that's kind of hard to talk about. I can see why you might be overwhelmed. Is there anything I can do to help?
Yeah, I don't know. I just been, I didn't realize coming here, leaving home was going to be this hard. So I'm just real homesick and lonely. And yeah, now it's just, like I said, it's taking everything in me just to, come up here and talk to you today, took everything in me, it felt like. So I just don't really know what to do. Like I said, I just feel so down all the time.
Yeah. So it took a lot of courage to come up and talk. And we do hear that a lot that first semester, really hard with homesickness and kind of transitioning to all this. So you mentioned kind of being down. How is that happening like all the time? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. At first, I guess it wasn't too bad. I was kind of sad about leaving home, but I was also excited about coming to college. But yeah, I don't know, as it's gone on, like I said, I'm not really meeting people, and I just really miss home and miss my family, miss my friends, and yeah, so more and more, like I said, I just want to sleep all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you may have some symptoms of depression. Not kind of hanging out with people and having a lot going on. And have you ever thought about like talking to someone about that?
No, I mean, I never thought about it. I don't know. You think that would help? I don't know.
Yeah, we actually have a pretty good counseling center here where, lots of students go when they're feeling kind of like this, and they can go talk about their stress, and they can come up with a game plan with a counselor. That's usually helpful for a lot of people. I know it was hard for you to even talk to me, but I could walk you over there if you wanted to go, or we can talk about setting an appointment. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess I didn't know. I didn't know there was counseling here, so I don't know. Yeah, if you don't mind showing me.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You want to like go right now, or do you want to set up an appointment? Probably
And if
best
we
to
don't go
right
now, I don't think I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's a good point.
if you got the time, we cool.
I'll be glad to walk in over there. You want a hug?
No.
No. Okay. How was that? Was that a little bit better? Anything you saw that was maybe on some of the good things to do?
Showed that you cared right after that. You said that you were concerned about him, so I think that might help to be a little bit more open with you.
She did incrementally open up a little more. Any other things?
I'm really big on the nonverbal confirmation. I feel like you're listening. I always like, when I talk to you, I like when you're not.
Thank you. See, it works, right? They teach us good things. Anything else?
And you were referring him to resources that were better fit the situation, after showing him that you were there and that you cared, and then walking.
I did want to walk him over, and I probably would have, I mean, being a counselor, I would have wanted to ask him about suicide. And because he was talking pretty severely about depression and being down and not talking to people. So that may have been an option to say, hey, are you feeling so low that you've thought about killing yourself? If you don't feel comfortable doing that again, like that's okay, but we got him somewhere. So like, let's say he didn't want to go to counseling. I mean, then I probably would have for surely wanted to ask him about suicide. That way that would help direct my steps, and I would have at least given him an ASU crisis helpline card. One of the great things about that number is that they know all of Angelo State's resources. They even know San Angelo's resources. And what they would do if they're worried about him after talking to him on the phone is they can call our police and have him hospital. I mean, that sounds punitive, but have him go to the hospital with our police department. So that is going to be a really great resource if you ever find yourself in a conversation like this. All right, any last thoughts about the role play? All right, do you all want to practice each other? We won't make you do it due to time, but we'll turn it over to Drew and let him talk.
Okay, yeah, so like Mark was saying, you know, he's been talking throughout this presentation that you can always refer to BIT, you know. So I'm just going to tell you real quick what the behavioral intervention team is and what we do, and then I'll kind of tell you some of these things will be changing a little bit. It's not going to change what we're doing, but there might be a little changes happening with the name of reports and stuff. I just wanted to give you a heads up if you start seeing things next semester and you think, hey, that's not what they said in that presentation, because there might be a few changes coming down the way. But like I said, it's not going to change anything of what we do. So the behavioral intervention team is composed of staff and faculty. It serves to provide appropriate referrals to help students achieve academic success while also paying special attention to the safety and security needs of members of the ASU community. So what it is we are, the behavioral intervention team is composed of different professionals from different departments in the ASU community. It's made up of Dr. Petty, he's the Executive Director of Student Affairs. Randall Jenkins is the Assistant Director of Conduct. Myself, the case manager. Mark, the Director of Counseling Services, and then Chief James Adams and Lieutenant Mark West with UPD. Tracy Baker with Housing and Residential Programs, and Michelle Reed, our academic coach here at ASU. And then we consult with disability services, financial aid, human resources, and Title IX as needed. So what we do as a team is we meet monthly and then on an as needed basis, and we try to identify students who are at risk, students of concern who are at risk, and try to provide early intervention supports to help them in the ASU community. So for the referrals to BIT, we get all sorts of referrals, okay? Academic support, mental distress, substance abuse, classroom behavioral issues, injury, illness, harassment, bullying, student hospitalizations, suicidal ideations, attempts, threatening behavior. Majority of what we get, like Mark said, the majority of people he sees for counseling, he sees them for anxiety, depression, and stress. That's majority of the referrals we get. About 70 to 75% of the referrals have to do with students who are dealing with those three things. And then the other 25%, you know, makes up, like I said, the suicidal ideations. Or we had a couple of suicidal attempts last semester that we intervened on. Of course, the attempt was made, you know, so we would have liked to have intervened earlier had we known, but we were able to come in on the back end and provide support as needed in case management, follow-ups, make sure they're attending any kind of outpatient treatments, stuff like that. And then, of course, any kind of threatening behavior, any kind of unsafe behavior. So how do I submit a report? You go to angelo.edu/incident form, or you can just search incident form on the Angelo website. What do you put in the report? So like Mark was saying, pretty much everything he's been talking about, you can follow up any conversation you have with a student, you can follow it up with submitting a bit report. We encourage you to do that. And like I said, all that does is that's just gonna provide more support for the student. So we are getting a care team developed that's made up of, right now we have 2 GAs and 1 social work intern, and one of our GAs, Scott, is in the audience right now. But they're actually going to be the ones reaching out to that 75% of students who fall under the anxiety, depression, stress. Those referrals go to them, and then they reach out and provide the case management services for those students, trying to connect them with resources that might help, and then follow up as needed. Follow-up ranges anywhere from, it might be, they say they're interested in counseling, and then they go for a walk-in, then we might follow up, a week or 2 later to see how they're doing, if they made their next appointment, and then that'll be we'll close out the case at that point because they seem to be doing okay. Others, we might follow up with them all semester. A few students last year, I had follow-ups split through the whole year, so it just depends on the case. When you put in the report, the incident report, when you pull it up, just put whatever your concern was, whatever any actions the student said or any behavior they're displaying. A lot of faculty, they'll include emails, because a lot of times they just get emails of students telling them that they're dealing with anxiety or depression or having thoughts of harming themselves. So they'll include those emails. I encourage you, if you submit a report, you can remain anonymous if you choose to. Of course, if you want to remain anonymous, please don't fill out your information in the report, because the students can see these reports if they ask for them. So, but I will try to keep your anonymity the best I can. I always recommend, if you can, let the student know that you're submitting a report to the care team. You can say a bit report or a report to the care team. Just tell them, I recommend saying, I'm glad you let me know what's going on. If you're okay with it, I want to submit a report to the care team. That way, care team member can follow up with you and try to get you connected to resources and see if there's anything else they can help with. And usually students are they're okay with that, and that way they know when we contact them, they had a heads up that a report was being submitted. So if you're able to do that, I encourage it, but if not, that's fine too. Like I said, you can remain anonymous, but it's always nice to know who reported it. If we have any questions, we can contact you. There's been several faculty members that I've been able to work with. They'll submit a report, then I'm able to give them a call, and then we're able to do some interventions right then and there, just brainstorming between the 2 of us. So, like I said, if you want to remain anonymous, that's okay. But another thing is, you can submit the report anonymous, but then if you do that, please give me a call and let me know that you submitted a report. Because then if I have any questions, I can talk to you, but we can still keep it anonymous on the report. And then, of course, you can always call me if needed. You can call me if you're not sure if you need to submit a report, or you want to call me and talk about a situation and maybe get some guidance on that, if a report's needed or not. You can call me for any reason at any time. What happens after I file the report? So it goes into our Maxient system, and that's our record system. And then, like I said, I'll reach out to staff, faculty, or other departments as needed to gather information. And then either myself or members of the care team will contact the student of concern. We'll assess the risk level. We have some standardized risk assessments and then a risk rubric to determine the risk level, if it's mild, moderate, elevated, or critical. Like I said, majority of the things we handle fall under the mild to moderate risk level. Once it gets to elevated and critical, that's usually where we bring in the BIT team to look at the situation and determine what interventions are needed. And then we'll make appropriate referrals to help the student, and then do follow-up, and like I said, follow-up and case management as necessary. So We're just like I said, we're a support here for the students. We're a support here for y'all. You know, some people aren't comfortable with doing some of the things that Mark's discussed. And if you're not, that's okay. That's why we want you to know that we're here to help you out. So, we're here to support you, the students, any way we can. Now we're going to do some case studies. Yeah, did you? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, we'll go through, I think, about 4 case studies here. What we're going to do is we'll read through these, and then we'll just ask the audience, you know, to tell us how you would handle it. So the first case study, a student sends you an email stating they want you to know a little bit about their history. In the email, they describe problems they had as children and a history of anxiety and depression. They state they still struggle with mental illness. The email is not related to a conversation you have had with the student. So this email just comes in kind of out of the blue, you know, talking about all these things. What would you do? How would you respond to that? So you reach out to the student? Yeah. Anybody else?
File mention, like,
Yeah. Let them know about some resources ASU has. And then, yeah, like Scott said, and let them know, hey, I'm gonna file a bit referral so someone can reach out to you, you know, and offer further support as needed. Did anybody else got anything they would do?
I feel like I would respond and I would thank them for like, first of all, just being open and sharing about what's going on. And let them know that I'd like to get more information when they say that they're still struggling with mental illness. That way, it's better analyze what resources they may need, and then of course just follow up and inform them about.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, those are all good things. There's no right or wrong answer on any of these. It's kind of just a brainstorm and talk about, you know, different options y'all might do. So yeah, I've had a few of these actually, and the faculty have done all the different things y'all have said, you know. Some of them have responded to the student right away and then let them know they submitted a report. Others have just submitted a report to me, you know, and then I followed up with them. Did you speak to the student at all? No, I haven't yet. I thought maybe y'all could handle that, which is okay, and we did, so. You notice a student in class who has been withdrawing from his peers, friends, and engaging with the course and not engaging with the course like they previously had. What would you do? And we've had several reports like this about students who are withdrawing from their peer groups, or students might not see them for a while, and so they'll submit a report. So what would y'all do in this situation?
maybe trying to get more field situation, saying about.
Just, you know, having to stay after class and just being open about his concerns that he has noticed these behaviors and wanted just to check in to see if, like, how they were doing, if there's anything going on and how.
Anybody else? Yeah, and then like we said, after you talk to them, you know, you can always follow it up with a bit report, you know, just let them know, hey, I'll submit a report and the care team's going to reach out to you, and that way they're there as an extra support if you ever need anything. Number 3, at a meeting, a student shows you a Twitter video of one of their friends who is an ASU student. The post shows the underage student partying and also cutting a tattoo on their arm. What would you do?
think they said that they can't hear the audience. And we're almost at the end, but can you speak up?
I would file the report, but I'm not quite sure. Because that's not one of, it wouldn't be necessarily one of my students. So at the very least, I would just at least file the report.
Yeah, yeah, so Scott said, in case y'all didn't hear online, that he'd file a report for sure. He wasn't sure if there was anything else to do, but he'd make sure to file the report. Did anybody else have anything? So yeah, this one, yeah, you can do that. You can also, you know, and it's okay to encourage the students to file reports, right? So, and we actually, that is something we're trying to get out more to the students that, you know, they're on the front lines for, noticing, students of concern, you know, with their peers. So we want to encourage them to file student of concern reports as well, you know, not just faculty and staff. Yeah, did you have anything else on that one, Mark?
I mean, I would take it pretty seriously with the cutting part. So, I would want someone to reach. Plus, there's also so I guess it depends on who you are, what your role is.
Yeah, and if you are, like Scott said, so maybe you're just maybe your faculty or staff who hears about this, like a student tells you it about their friend, you know, maybe they don't want to submit the report, but then, yeah, you can go ahead and submit the report and then let the student know you're submitting a report. Maybe give the name of the student that let you know about this, you know, that way when it comes in on our end, I might be able to reach out to that initial student who reported it, maybe gather a little bit more information before reaching out to the student of concern. And number 4, a student in class consistently makes odd comments that seem unrelated to the course materials, which is somewhat disruptive. The student also lingers and attempts to talk with you about strange topics and is often incoherent in their speech. What would you do? So this is dealing more with behaviors of concern.
I would talk to them and see what the inherent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Anybody else? This was one, this is like, we had one, that we were getting several reports in on that were all kind of similar to this from different people. And it turned out, you know, the student, he was struggling with, some mental diagnoses that he had recently gotten off medication. And so these symptoms started coming back up that they looked like, kind of like he was under the influence or something, or his speech was kind of bizarre, you know. But he was getting back on the medications. So it was kind of in that process, or he had just changed medications or something like that. So from our end, we were actually able to just follow up with him and check how he's doing, is he taking his medications, you know, kind of just be another support to help with his medication management, you know. And he would come around and talk to us, and over the course of, you know, a few weeks, he got back to his regular baseline, so. So this is, like I said, I brought all sorts of stuff up here. Feel free to grab whatever you like. We got these folders right here are geared more towards faculty and staff, and it just lists all the resources, the crisis helpline number, our contact information, of course, all the information on counseling services. We have these cards right here. It's a quick reference that lists a bunch of different ASU resources that are here for students. We got these die cuts. This is a good thing. This goes over how to submit a student of concern report. It's all right here. So it's a great thing to get to students so they know how to do that. We got magnets that have the crisis helpline number on them. And then we also have these little cards here that have crisis helpline number on them. So y'all feel free to grab anything you need up there. If you'd ever like more of any of that stuff, give me a call and I can get it for you. Counseling services, I always like to tell people the walk-in times are 9 to 3, Monday through Friday. I always recommend someone, if they haven't been before, go in for a walk-in appointment so they can be seen right then and there for an intake and then schedule follow-up appointments afterwards.
Yeah, I have this, if anyone wants to take a screenshot, these are all like chat lines, text lines, call lines. And then the 3 mental health hospital resources, 2 inpatient, and 1 is the mental health authority, MHMR. We do, not to be too promoting, but we do have a TikTok channel, which is pretty cool, right? Who doesn't want to follow Counseling Center's TikTok channel? But it's a new thing, and we also have an Instagram account, Resilient_RAM. If you want to stay afloat of all the cool outreaches we have coming up.
Then, of course, here's the crisis helpline again. Like Mark was talking about, and I've mentioned, but that's 24/7, 365 days a year. They get to talk to a mental health professional. And then that person can make further referrals as necessary. Questions and answers. Does anybody have any questions?
Do you find that a lot of actually connect with students and turn in reports and actually talk with them
Yeah. A lot of faculty do. So, I think we got, the 220 reports last year. So yeah, they do. And it just runs the gamut of, like we talked about, some of them, have already talked to the student and let them know they're submitting a report. Others, prefer not to and just want us to handle it. And then some of them, there was one I think of where a student had submitted an essay to a professor. And in the essay, she talks about always struggling with being kind of sad and not fitting in and how she has a hard time opening up to people, but in this essay, she's obviously opening up to the professor. And so the professor submitted it to us with an attachment of the essay. And then that's one of those where we kind of work together on it, because I contacted the professor and, told her I definitely will reach out to the student, but she it looks like she was opening up to you. Are you comfortable with maybe asking her after stay back after class and kind of see if she's doing okay? And the professor was, so she was actually going to see her that class was that day that we talked. And then she met with her after class, and she said the student thanked her for following up with her, and the student was doing better, and since she's gotten to school, things are going better. So yeah, a lot of times we'll just work together on stuff when they submit the reports. If after reaching out to the student and they were dismissive, would you still recommend submitting a report? Oh, for sure. Yeah, if they're dismissive, I'd always recommend submitting a report, because it doesn't hurt to, the worst case scenario, they're just dismissive with us, but maybe, just maybe, especially now that we have students working for us as the care team, maybe when a student worker reaches out to them, maybe they'll be more open to the student worker than they are to the professor. So I would always, with a dismissive student, I would always submit a report.
One more question, just out of curiosity. So I did my undergrad here and I'm in my last year of grad school, and this is my first time hearing about FIT.
Yeah.
So what are some of the ways that you promote, how do you promote FIT?
Yeah, so, I've been in this position for a year now. I started last September. And, so far, it has been presentations like this that we're doing, and then, of course, things like the health wellness fair or, any kind of events where, student affairs is out there, you know, we'll have bid out there with all the handouts and stuff. But, like I said, we're moving to this care team model. And, the care team is going to fall under this umbrella term called ASU Cares. And once that's implemented, like it's not taken effect yet, but it's coming pretty soon. Once that happens, we're going to be utilizing our care team staff to do a lot more outreach to push the care team referrals are what they'll be called, but pretty much the same thing as the bid reports. So hopefully getting that information more out to staff and students. No.
Anything last, questions online? Okay. All right, thank you, and sorry for your online experience about the video. We had it tested earlier and it worked, so I'm sorry. Thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate it. Have a lovely
Thank you.
day.
Yeah, and y'all, like I say, you feel free to grab this stuff and let me know if you